For years, empaths have been the world's emotional punching bags, absorbing everyone's pain, music, staying silent, taking the abuse, being told they're too sensitive, too emotional, too much. But that music era is ending right now. Carl Jung predicted this moment. A psychological shift so powerful, music, it would flip the entire social order. The feeler is about to overpower the narcissist. The sensitive are about to dominate the selfish. And if you're an empath, your comeback isn't just possible, it's inevitable. Jung called it the most important psychological evolution of our time. He saw it coming decades ago. A moment when the people who feel everything would finally weaponize their greatest gift. Not by becoming cold, not by shutting down, but by becoming music, strategically dangerous to anyone who ever tried to exploit them. Here's what Jung understood that most people miss. What happens when the music shock absorber becomes the engine? What happens when the person who's been silently observing every lie, every manipulation, every hidden agenda finally decides to use that information? That's not a victim anymore. That's a psychological genius who's been gathering data for years. And the world is about to find out what empaths are really capable of. We live in what psychologists call the age of narcissism, a time when selfishness is rewarded, where manipulation is called strategy, where emotional exploitation is just business as usual. Empaths have been surviving in this world like refugees in enemy territory. Constantly drained, constantly overlooked, constantly told their sensitivity is a weakness. But here's what nobody saw, coming. Empaths weren't just suffering through this age. They were studying it. Every time someone lied to them, they cataloged the pattern. Every time someone manipulated them, they memorized the technique. Every time someone used them, they learned exactly how predators think. While narcissists were celebrating their short-term wins, empaths were building a complete psychological database of human manipulation. They've spent years in the world's most brutal psychology program, and they're about to graduate with honors.
Music. Jung understood something crucial about human development.
He called it the law of opposites. Music, when anything reaches its extreme, it transforms into its opposite.
Darkness into music, light, weakness into strength, silence into power.
He saw this pattern throughout music history in individuals and entire cultures. The narcissistic age has reached, its peak. It's eating itself alive. Society is collapsing under the weight of its own selfishness. And the very music qualities that narcissists exploited in empaths are about to become the most valuable skills in human society. Think about what an empath actually, is. Someone who can read a room instantly. Who knows when someone is lying before they finish their sentence? Who can sense emotional shifts that others miss completely? Who understands human motivation at levels most people never reach? Who feels the unspoken tension that everyone else ignores? Who picks up on micro-expressions that reveal true intentions? This isn't weakness.
This is advanced psychological intelligence.
The only reason it looked like weakness was because empaths were using it defensively, trying to keep the peace, trying to help everyone, trying to absorb all the pain so others wouldn't have to feel it. They turned their superpower into a service industry. They became emotional janitors, cleaning up everyone else's psychological mess. They became human shields, protecting others from consequences. They became translators, explaining toxic people to hurt people and hurt people to toxic people. And the whole time they were undervaluing the rarest skill set in human psychology. But something is shifting right now in empaths all over the world. Jung predicted this moment, with eerie accuracy. He studied what happens when someone is pushed past their breaking point. Not the breaking point where they collapse, the breaking point where they transform. He had a term for it.
Into odia. The concept is simple.
When pressure builds to an extreme, the psyche doesn't break. It reverses. It becomes the opposite of what it was. The gentle become fierce. The giving becomes selective. the open, music, become boundaried. The empath who spent years being nice is about to become real. The person who absorbed everyone's emotions is about to set boundaries like steel walls. The individual who stayed silent to keep the peace is about to speak truth that shatters illusions. The people music pleaser who twisted themselves into pretzels for approval is about to stand so firmly in their own truth that they become unmovable. This isn't a breakdown. This is psychological emergence.
The birth of the complete, music, self.
Here's where it gets interesting. That shadow side that empaths have been suppressing their entire lives. Music, the anger, the boundaries, the refusal to tolerate manipulation, the ability to cut people off without guilt, the capacity to say no without explanation, the willingness to prioritize music themselves over others' comfort. The readiness to let people face consequences, the strength to watch someone struggle without rescuing them. That's not the enemy. That's the missing half of their power. Most empaths were taught to fear their shadow. Told that anger makes them, music, bad, that boundaries make them selfish, that protecting themselves makes them no better than narcissists, that prioritizing their needs is the same as narcissistic self-absorption. So they buried those qualities deep. They became half people.
Al light, no darkness, al giving, no taking, music, al sensitivity, no strengths, al absorption, no reflection.
But you can't have a coin with only one side. You can't have a battery with only a positive charge. Music, and you can't have a complete human being with only the soft qualities. Jung spent his entire career trying to get people, music, to understand this integration, wholeness, the union of opposites. Music, he called it the most important work a human can do. The empatha's comeback isn't about becoming a narcissist. It's about becoming complete. Adding the missing half.
The shadow isn't evil.
It's protection. It's strength. It's the part of you that knows when music, to fight instead of flee. When to speak instead of silence. When to cut instead of heal. When to prioritize yourself instead of sacrificing for others. Music. And here's what makes this absolutely devastating to narcissists and manipulators. An empath with integrated shadow is unstoppable. They have all the perceptive abilities they always have had. They still see through lies. They still read people instantly. Music. They still understand emotional dynamics better than anyone. They still feel the energy in a room. They still pick up on what's not being said. But now they're not trying to fix it. They're not trying to help the narcissist heal. Music. They're not sacrificing themselves to keep the peace. They're not taking responsibility for other people's emotions. They're using their abilities strategically to protect music themselves, to build the life they actually want, to remove anyone who can't match their energy. Music. If this resonates with you, take a moment to like this video and comment below with where you are in your own integration music process.
Your transformation matters.
Think about what that means in practical music terms. A narcissist walks into a room expecting to charm everyone. The empath sees through them in 30 seconds, recognizes the music, love bombing, notices the way they're sizing up the room for supply, watches them, music, shift personalities based on who they're talking to. But instead of trying to warn people or fix the situation, music, they simply remove themselves. No drama, no explanation, just strategic distance. The manipulator tries their usual tactics.
The guilt, music, trips, the gaslighting, the victim playing.
The empath recognizes the pattern instantly and shuts it down with one sentence, or better yet, with music, silence and distance. The energy vampire tries to drain them with endless complaints, music, and crises. The empath cuts contact without guilt or second-guessing. Music. The toxic family member tries the same old manipulation. The empath enforces boundaries that would have seemed, music, impossible a year ago. The friend who only calls when they need something gets sent to voicemail permanently. The romantic partner who plays games, music, gets replaced before they even realize they've been playing alone.
This is, music, the comeback.
Not revenge, not becoming what hurt them, but becoming too psychologically advanced to be hurt by those tactics, music, again. Narcissists and manipulators have been winning because empaths were playing by rules that guaranteed they'd lose. Be nice.
Music, gívese con chances.
See the good in everyone. Sacrifice yourself for others.
Turn the other cheek. Go the extra mile.
Be the bigger person. Those aren't universal truths. Those are control mechanisms. Music and empaths are waking up to that reality. They're realizing that being nice to people who don't deserve it isn't kindness. Music, itself, betrayal. That giving second chances to people who haven't earned them isn't mercy. It's enabling. That seeing the good in everyone while they're actively hurting you isn't wisdom. It's delusion. That sacrificing yourself for others who wouldn't do the same isn't noble. It's a pattern that needs to break. But the comeback isn't just personal. It's structural. Music, society itself is shifting in a way that favors exactly what empaths offer. For decades, we rewarded dominance, aggression, the loudest voice in the room, the person willing to step on others, the one who showed no emotion, the individual who treated people like resources. Music, that worked in a simple world, in manufacturing economies, in hierarchical structures. Music, in systems built on compliance and control.
But we don't live in a simple world anymore.
We live in a connected, complex, emotionally intelligent world. The economy runs on relationships, on trust, on collaboration, on innovation that requires psychological safety, on customer experience that depends on genuine connection. Music, and the skills that matter now are exactly the skills empaths have been developing their entire lives. Music, emotional intelligence and the ability to read people. Understanding group dynamics, sensing what's not being said, building genuine connections. Music, creating environments where people feel safe, knowing what someone needs before they ask, reading the subtext in every interaction, understanding motivation at deep levels. These aren't soft skills anymore. They're the most valuable skills in business, leadership, relationships, and society. The world is finally catching up to what empaths have always known. Emotions aren't distractions from logic. They're data. Music, they're information. They're intelligence that most people can't access. Companies are starting to realize that the aggressive leader who gets short-term results burns out teams and destroys culture. That the narcissistic CEO who looks good on paper creates toxic environments that kill innovation. That the manager who rules by fear loses their best people. They want leaders who can read the room, who understand what people need, who build loyalty instead of fear, who create cultures where people actually want to contribute. That's an empath with integrated shadow. Not weak, not a pushover, but emotionally intelligent and strategically powerful. Relationships are shifting, too. People are tired of surface-level connections.
Tired of gameplay. Tired of emotional, manipulation. Tired of partners who can't communicate.
Tired of friends who only show up when it's convenient. Tired of family dynamics built on guilt and obligation. They want real. They want depth. They want someone who actually sees them, who understands them without lengthy explanations, who can hold space for complexity, who doesn't run from difficult emotions.
That's what empaths do naturally.
But now they're doing it with boundaries. With standards, with the willingness to walk away from anything less than genuine. Even culture is changing. We're questioning the systems that rewarded narcissism, calling out manipulation, valuing authenticity, creating spaces for emotional honesty, rejecting the fake positivity and toxic productivity. The pendulum swung so far towards selfishness that it's snapping back hard. And when it settles, empaths are going to be standing exactly where the world needs them. Jung saw this coming. He understood that history moves in cycles. That what's suppressed eventually rises. That what's undervalued eventually becomes precious. That consciousness evolves through individuals before it shifts in the collective. Empaths have been underground for so long that people forgot they were there. Forgot what they're capable of. Forgot that sensitivity combined, music, with strength is the most dangerous combination in human psychology. The fully realized empath is something the world hasn't seen before. At least not in large numbers. Imagine someone with the perception music, to read you completely, who knows when you're lying, who senses your intentions before you act, who understands your patterns better than you understand them yourself. Music, who can predict your next move based on patterns you don't even know you're repeating. Music, but instead of using that ability to help you or fix you or absorb your pain, music, they use it to decide if you're worth their energy. And if you're not, you're gone. Music, no second chances, no explanations, no 3-hour conversations trying to make you music, understand, just strategic removal. They don't announce their power. They don't need to music, prove anything. They don't post about their boundaries on social media. They don't make grand statements about cutting people off. Music, their presence is different now, grounded, unshakable. There's a quiet intensity that makes people nervous if they have something to hide and comfortable if they're genuine. They ask direct questions. They don't dance around uncomfortable truths. They don't laugh at jokes that aren't funny, music, to keep the mood light. They don't perform emotion they don't feel. They don't pretend to be interested in music, conversations that bore them. This makes narcissists and manipulators deeply uncomfortable. Their tactics don't work anymore. The empath doesn't music, take the bait, doesn't get defensive when accused, doesn't try to prove themselves when questioned, doesn't need validation when criticized. Music, doesn't chase when given the silent treatment. The manipulator's greatest weapons are useless against someone who's psychologically complete. You can't guilt someone who's integrated their music shadow. You can't manipulate someone who sees your patterns clearly. You can't music drain someone who's learned to protect their energy.
You can't control someone who's willing to walk away. The comeback empath commands, music, respect without demanding it.
They don't need to fight for their worth because they, music, know it. They don't need to convince anyone because they're not selling anything. They're not trying to be liked by everyone because they understand that being genuine means some people won't like you and they're completely fine with that.
Music, better than fine.
They prefer it. They'd rather be disliked for who they are than loved for who they're pretending to be. This is what music, Young meant by individuation. Becoming so full of yourself that other people's opinions become background noise. Here's what this looks like in music, real life. Toxic family members who used to drain them for hours get one sentence, music, boundaries. No more 3-hour phone calls processing someone else's drama. No more hosting holidays for people who don't respect them. No more explaining their choices to people who won't understand anyway. Friends who only called when they needed something get distance without drama.
No confrontation, no explanation.
Music, just a quiet fade that protects the empath's peace. Romantic partners who played games get replaced by people who match their emotional maturity. No more dating potential.
No more fixing broken people.
No more staying because of history. No more giving chance after chance to people who show you exactly who they are. Workplaces that exploited their empathy get left for environments that value their skills.
No more working twice as hard for half the recognition.
No more being the emotional music support for the entire office. No more sacrificing boundaries for corporate culture. Music, and through all of it, no guilt, no second guessing, no wondering if they're being too harsh. No questioning, music, if they should give one more chance. Just clear decisions based on clear values.
Music, this is the power of integration. Queni.